Welcome to my Chanel Most Worth Coins, WC. Today videos is one you won't to miss. We're diving into the world of top 5 quarter-dollar coins. So let's get it started. The 1968 United States quarter dollar is a fascinating coin, not only for collectors, but also for those intrigued by American history, post-war economics, and the evolution of coinage in the United States. Minted during a time of great societal transformation, the 1968 quarter is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Though its design had not changed since its inception, 1968 marked a significant era in the life of the Washington Quarter, as it was among the first few years to be struck entirely without any silver content, due to a monumental shift in U.S. coinage policy. To fully understand the significance of the 1968 quarter, one must look back a few years. Until 1964, quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, due to a combination of rising silver prices and widespread coin hoarding during the early 1960s, the U.S. Mint faced a severe coin shortage. In response, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from the dime and quarter and reduced the silver content of the half dollar from 90% to 40%. Beginning in 1965, quarters were instead made of a clad composition, a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving them the same silvery appearance but without the intrinsic value of silver. The 1968 quarter, therefore, was part of this new clad coinage. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and a reeded edge. The obverse features the familiar bust of George Washington, facing left, designed by John Flanagan, based on a 1785 bust by French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon. The word liberty arcs above Washington's head, while the phrase, "In God we trust," appears to the left of his profile. The date, 1968, is placed beneath the bust. This obverse design had remained largely unchanged since its debut in 1932 and would continue to do so until the state quarters program began in 1999. The reverse of the 1968 quarter also retained the original Flanagan design, a heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing readiness for war, and surrounded by olive branches below, representing a desire for peace. Above the eagle's head are the words, "United States of America," and "just." Beneath it, the national motto, "E pluribus unum," out of many one. At the bottom of the reverse is the denomination, quarter dollar. This bold and formal imagery reflects America's post-war pride and strength, as well as a traditionalism that remained deeply embedded in its coinage design through much of the 20th century. In terms of production, the 1968 quarter holds another point of significance. That year, the San Francisco Mint resumed producing coins for general circulation, but only in proof form. As such, 1968 quarters were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; and San Francisco, S mint mark. However, it's crucial to note that any quarter bearing an S mint mark from 1968 is a proof coin, not intended for circulation, but for collectors. These proof coins were struck using specially prepared dies and polished planchets, resulting in high-quality coins with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. The mintage figures for the 1968 quarter were as follows: Philadelphia, no mint mark, 220, 731,500 coins Denver, D, 115,34,000 coins San Francisco, S, proof only, 3,041,506 coins. Because of these large mintage numbers, especially from the Philadelphia Mint, most 1968 quarters are considered common in circulated condition. However, collectors do seek high-grade examples, particularly those that have survived in mint state, MS-65 or higher, as well as proof coins with deep cameo contrast. The clad composition makes these coins particularly susceptible to wear and environmental damage, so well-preserved specimens, especially those with full luster and no contact marks, are in demand. Another area of interest for numismatists is the presence of varieties and errors. While 1968 doesn't feature a particularly famous error like the doubled die of earlier years, collectors still hunt for misstrikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets. Additionally, because mint marks were still hand-punched into dies during this era, there are minor mint mark varieties in Denver and San Francisco coins, though none are especially rare or valuable unless combined with other anomalies. One subtle detail that fascinates collectors is the change in mint mark location and style over the years. In 1968, the mint mark appeared on the obverse, just to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair. This location would remain standard until 1980, when the U.S. Mint began placing mint marks directly onto the master die. The 1968 quarter also tells a broader story about American life and economic policy. Its composition, the abandonment of silver, speaks to a time when the U.S. economy was straining under the weight of both domestic inflation and the enormous cost of the Vietnam War. Removing silver from circulating coinage allowed the government to reduce production costs and maintain a stable money supply without depending on precious metals. However, it also marked the end of an era, as earlier silver coinage became a nostalgic reminder of the pre-inflation years. Today, the 1968 quarter serves both as a collectible and a circulating coin still occasionally found in pocket change, over 5 decades after its minting. Though it is not rare, it is a window into a transformative period of American numismatics. Its place in collections is usually as a type coin from the early clad years, or as part of a full Washington quarter set. Proof specimens from San Francisco remain popular among collectors for their sharp detail and attractive finishes. In summary, the 1968 Washington quarter encapsulates a crucial turning point in U.S. coinage history, a move away from precious metals toward modern materials, reflecting broader economic shifts. It stands as a bridge between the Silver Age and the modern era, a coin of resilience and tradition in a time of change. Whether you're a seasoned collector, a history buff, or a curious observer, the 1968 quarter offers layers of interest and significance that make it more than just loose change. It's a piece of America's evolving story. The 1969 United States quarter dollar, like its immediate predecessor, continues the legacy of the Washington Quarter series, a design that had already been in circulation for 37 years by that time. The 1969 quarter is a compelling coin that reflects a period of transition not only in American numismatics, but also in the broader cultural, economic, and political landscape of the United States. As with other Washington quarters minted after 1965, the 1969 quarter was struck in a clad composition, marking the continuation of a significant shift in U.S. coinage that began with the Coinage Act of 1965. This legislation, a response to rising silver prices and widespread hoarding, eliminated silver from the dime and quarter and reduced the silver content in half dollars, leading to the creation of the modern copper-nickel-clad coinage. Thus, the 1969 quarter consists of an inner core of pure copper and outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.3 millimeter, and features a reeded edge. Though it may appear silver-like in color, it contains no silver, a crucial point for collectors and historians alike. On the obverse, the coin retains the classical bust of George Washington, facing left, sculpted by John Flanagan based on the famous 18th-century bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. Surrounding Washington's profile are the Liberty across the top, In God We Trust to the left, and the date, 1969, at the bottom. The mint mark, if present, appears to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair and is a key identifier for collectors. The reverse of the coin also holds true to tradition, displaying a heraldic eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle. of arrows with olive branches below, a classical image meant to symbolize America's readiness for defense and desire for peace. Around the eagle are the United States of America at the top, a pluribus unum just beneath that, and quarter dollar at the bottom. The reverse, like the obverse, remained unchanged in major design from the coin's debut in 1932 through Ede 1998. In 1969, quarters were produced at 3 mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. Importantly, only the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins, which were struck using specially polished dies and planchets intended exclusively for collectors rather than circulation. The mintage figures reflect both the continued high demand for coinage and the focus on proof sets for the growing collector market. In terms of mintage numbers, Philadelphia struck 176,712,000 coins with no mint mark. Denver struck 114,372,000 with a D mint mark. And San Francisco produced 2,934,631 proof coins bearing the S mint mark. As a result, all 1969 S quarters are proof coins, and any found in circulation today may have been separated from their original proof sets. From a collector's perspective, most 1969 quarters are considered common in circulated condition, but high-grade mint state, MS65 and above coins, as well as proof deep cameo, PR69 DCAM examples, are more desirable. The clad composition presents particular challenges. These coins often show contact marks, dull luster, or discoloration due to oxidation of the copper core when the nickel layers wear thin. Finding a bright, lustrous, well-struck 1969 quarter with no significant flaws is thus more challenging than the mintage numbers might suggest. There are also a few minor varieties and errors that intrigue collectors. The most notable is the existence of occasional off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and die breaks. Additionally, because mint marks in 1969 were still hand-punched into the dies, there are slight variations in their placement and appearance, sometimes leading to subtle RPM, repunched mint mark varieties, especially from Denver and San Francisco. While none are especially rare, they can add value and interest for variety collectors. The 1969 quarter also tells a broader story of its time. It was minted during a turbulent year in American history, a year that witnessed the height of the Vietnam War, massive protests, and cultural upheaval. The U.S. was grappling with civil rights issues, environmental awareness, and a shifting economic landscape. Although these political and social changes aren't directly visible in the coin's design, they form a rich backdrop to its production and usage. Coins like the 1969 quarter were in everyone's hands, from soldiers and students to factory workers and suburban families, making it a silent witness to a pivotal moment in American life. One might say that while the design remained fixed and conservative, the world around the coin was rapidly evolving. From a numismatic investment standpoint, the 1969 quarter is not considered a high-value coin unless it is in exceptionally high grade or part of a full, uncirculated or proof set. However, its value lies in its history, its place in the evolution of American currency, and its connection to a culturally significant era. For many collectors, the joy comes from piecing together a full set of clad Washington quarters from 1965 onward, and the 1969 issue, available in both business strike and proof, represents a vital piece of that puzzle. In the world of modern coinage, the 1969 quarter remains a nostalgic and educational artifact, a symbol of durability, transition, and the everyday lives of millions of Americans who used it in shops, buses, diners, and payphones. Whether pulled from circulation, found in a childhood coin jar, or nestled in a collector's album, the 1969 United States quarter dollar serves as both a physical and historical touchstone, linking generations through the quiet clink of pocket change. The 1970 United States quarter dollar holds a subtle yet fascinating place in American numismatic history, not because of a radical design change or a precious metal content, but because of what it represents. A matured clad era coin circulating during a time of great national and global transformation. By 1970, the Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932 to honor the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, had become a firmly embedded piece of everyday American life. Still bearing the classic John Flanagan design, the coin featured the stoic left-facing bust of George Washington on the obverse, modeled after the 18th century sculpture by Jean-Antoine Houdon. The inscription's liberty arched above Washington's head, "In God We Trust," rested to his left, and the date 1970 was positioned beneath his neck. To the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon, one might notice a mint mark, indicating the facility where the coin was struck, a small but critical detail for collectors. The reverse of the 1970 quarter continued to display the powerful image of a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing both strength and a desire for peace. Encircling the eagle were the United States of America and a pluribus unum at the top, with the denomination $quarter boldly inscribed at the bottom. In terms of composition, the 1970 quarter, like its post-1965 predecessors, was made from a copper nickel-clad alloy. Specifically, it consisted of a pure copper core layered between two outer sheets of a 75% copper and 25% nickel mixture. This transition away from 90% silver, enacted by the Coinage Act of 1965, was a response to a nationwide coin shortage and the rising intrinsic value of silver, making hoarding a significant issue. The move to clad coinage preserved the physical appearance of silver but drastically changed the material value of coins, fundamentally altering the numismatic landscape. In 1970, quarters were produced at three mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D, and San Francisco, S, though their purposes differed. The Philadelphia Mint struck 136,420,000 quarters for circulation without any mint mark. The Denver Mint produced 417,341,364 quarters, clearly identifiable by the small D mint mark on the obverse. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint struck proof-only quarters, producing 2,632,1010 highly detailed coins marked with an S, exclusively intended for collectors and packaged in special proof sets. It's worth noting that 1970 marked the final year before the introduction of large-scale mint mark automation. Until 1980, mint marks were still hand-punched into dies, meaning slight variations in positioning and appearance exist, especially from the Denver and San Francisco facilities. These minor quirks, while often subtle, are the basis of certain collectible varieties. While most 1970 quarters are common in circulation and bear modest collector value, some numismatic gems do exist, notably high-grade mint state, MS-67 Plus specimens, proofs with deep cameo contrast, and even a famous error variety, the 1970 S proof quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter planchet. This incredibly rare error was discovered within a proof set and has become one of the most talked about modern U.S. coin errors due to its dramatic implications. It was struck over an entirely foreign coin, revealing partial Canadian inscriptions. Under magnification. Only one verified example of this error is known, and it sold at auction for over $35,000, igniting both interest and caution among collectors checking their proof sets for anomalies. Apart from that exceptional error, collectors of 1970 quarters often pursue coins with exceptional luster, sharp strikes, and minimal contact marks, as the clad composition is prone to dulling and tarnishing over time. Furthermore, 1970 serves as a numismatic checkpoint, the end of the 1960s, and a precursor to dramatic design changes to come later in the century. In a broader historical context, the coin circulated during a tumultuous era in American life. The United States was navigating the final years of the Vietnam War, coping with civil unrest and preparing for a decade that would bring economic shifts, and changing values. The quarter itself was a tool of daily commerce, but also a silent witness to the lives of millions. Used in laundromats, vending machines, payphones, buses, and diners. It was a coin passed between generations, tucked away in piggy banks or carried in pockets, bearing the legacy of Washington while quietly adapting to the modern age. In this way, the 1970 quarter is both ordinary and extraordinary, a common coin by mintage standards, but a historical artifact by context. From a collector's perspective, it is a staple of any Washington quarter set, and a reminder of the shift from precious metal to utilitarian durability. Its design, largely unchanged since the 1930s, stands in stark contrast to the vibrant state quarters in America, the beautiful series that would eventually follow. In summary, the 1970 United States quarter dollar may not boast widespread rarity or precious metal value, but it encapsulates an important era in American coinage. It is the product of technological evolution, economic adaptation, and historical continuity. For collectors, historians, or even those with a nostalgic eye, the 1970 quarter is a small but enduring piece of the American story, reflecting the country's strength, transition, and tradition, all in the palm of a hand. Would you like? This turned into a video script with voiceover pacing and visual suggestions? I can help with that too.